Good evening. You are watching a ThinkTech global broadcast. This is Asian Review, and I'm your host, David Day. And this evening we have a very unusual program because we're going to be focusing on outer island businesses. And for those of you who are business people who are located here on Oahu, there is something in this for you. And the program will go broader than Hawaii, and we'll include some discussion and some tips that will apply equally as well if you are a business owner located out in the real outer islands, maybe as far as Guam, Saipan, Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas, or into American Samoa. And to help us with this discussion, we have a special guest in the audience, Ms. Ginny Takimoto. And Ginny, nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Jenny is, by the way, for those of you who don't know her, and I know that many of you do, Jenny is an owner of Asia Pacific Hawaii, which is a consulting firm based on Maui that assists outer island businesses principally, but not limited to outer island businesses, but assists them in going international, expanding their markets, moving overseas. And Jenny has an interesting background in finance with our tourism industry that goes back enough time to call her seasoned, but without any gray hair, something like that, okay? But Jenny, to kind of set this program up a little bit, let's talk about what's different. What are the unique challenges that let's say I was a business owner, but I'm not located here on Oahu. How is the challenge of expanding my market different than what it would be if I was on Oahu as compared to an outer island?
Well, outer island, being that you're isolated in the island, timing, time is one of the factors in terms of, trying to get things out. Shipping, and also too, the resources, because we're not as, a high population as a big city like Honolulu. So as far as the hours available, accessible for the outer island, those could be a challenge in terms of getting your goods and services outside of the island that you're in.
One of the things I've noticed is that you you fly a lot. Mm-hmm. You make these runs back and forth between Maui here and Oahu, just like some people commute into town from the North Shore. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's a different aspect, a higher overhead cost than a local business person would have here on Oahu. Am I correct?
That is correct. Not only in that regards on the operations side, in terms of information and news, if there is a conference or event that is held in the main city, for example, in Honolulu, you have to have ample time to prep yourself to go over to Honolulu. You have to make sure you have the flight available, that you can go out there, as well as getting your merchandise to be ready and present in the events.
Well, one of the things that I've often talked with our founder, our CEO, Mr. Jay Fidel here at ThinkTech, we've often talked about this whole intellectual concept called island drift. And that is where as we move forward in time and as technology explodes and people are more and more connected, that in some respects, it's not that the islands physically move apart, but there is a kind of a growing separation or isolationism in some areas.
Yes, I totally agree.
Do you feel that?
I do. Yes.
And so part of what we're going to be talking about today is how do we help the outer island business get connected to expand their markets and move on internationally. And one of the points that you made was that there is this challenge of time. Mm-hmm. And so let's explain for us in a little bit more depth. What do you mean by this challenge? What is the time challenge that an inter-island business owner faces in trying to expand their markets beyond Maui or beyond the Big Island or both beyond Kauai as an example?
Well, in regards to exporter who have merchandise, you have to look at the schedule in terms of the air versus the boat, in terms of availability. to have the goods to be in time to be in the piers or at the airport, and then go over, just hum over the island or go over to mainland or to globally. And you have to somehow pay an extra cost and also prepare it differently because the link is a little longer. It could be sitting in Honolulu or could be sitting in LA. So that extra cost, and then you think about what kind of products you have that make sure that you meet the schedule, as well as information that come in terms of having a particular of events that you want to go out.
So in your experience in assisting outer island businesses to go international, think back with me for a moment. Can you give us an example so that maybe our audience can appreciate this? What's an example of a time challenge that one of your clients has had to deal with?
This is back in APAC 2011. He's my pro bono client that has a beautiful shop in Lahaina. He also have making Hawaii product, specifically is soap. He want to present his goods at the APAC at the East West Center. He didn't get that news in time, but he want to prep it, so he rushed to try to get everything ready to do his presentation so he can sell outside of Maui. And because of the lack of preparation, because he only have 6 days to prep, he didn't get the news soon enough, he didn't present himself as well he wanted, so he wasn't able to be promoting and get his goods out
Jenny,
there.
is it, am I mistaken, or the outer island businesses, are they left out of the communication links for important things that are going on in Oahu?
I'm so glad that you bring that to my attention, because the communications is a key for people who live outside of the main continent or the main city. At times, we are like the stepsister and brother, even though we're all Hawaii. We don't get the news as fast as in Honolulu. There are events that really help the small businesses to branch out, but they didn't get the communication. They didn't get the news. They missed the boat.
They missed the boat there because they're not wired in.
Exactly.
Well, okay, so let's take so this particular problem, focusing on this client that missed the product show for APEC.
Yes, at East West Center.
What's the solution in terms of solving this timing communications problem? What have you done to help that client or help other clients handle that time challenge?
In my own experience, what I have seen is that if we could partner with the federal and the state and the local county to have all this information to be very available, not just for Honolulu or Oahu, to the rest of the Hawaii Islands, that would make us a lot more stronger in terms of having all these time differences in communication.
So one of the challenges that the outer island business owner, let's say I'm a business owner, my business is located in Kihei. One of the challenges that I have that I'm going to have to overcome is I'm going to have to get connected up or wired into these various resources, and because they might not come to me if I just sit there.
That is correct.
So I'm going to have to take a lot more proactive stance in getting wired in so that I don't get left out of opportunities to show off my product, or I don't get left out of a key conference that's taking place on Oahu that somehow I'm not on the right mailing list, or I don't have the right circle of friends or network. Is that kind of the challenge and the solution all boiled together?
In terms of news and communication, yes. But the operation in terms of shipping, packaging, that's the operation side. But it is correct.
Well, let's go now. Let's shift a little bit to the whole issue of and challenge that an outer island business has. It's one problem to create a product and then just to get it to Honolulu. That's step one. And so, but what's the shipping and packaging problem or the challenge that the outer island business has in getting the export? So let's say a Maui business is going to export into Hong Kong as an example. What's the shipping problem?
Well, I use the illustration of Waimea Chocolate, who basically based in Maui.
They're one of your clients, are they?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is growing his business.
Waimea Chocolate, you're lucky to have this lady, by the way. So, okay, go ahead.
He is growing his business from just Maui to Hawaii. So his first step is launching his product to Neiman's Market, and then now he's ready to go global.
Okay, so let me slow you down. He goes, the chocolate product goes from Maui to Neiman Marcus.
In Honolulu.
In Honolulu, okay. And then that's step one.
Yes.
And so you're taking him step two?
Yes.
And so what happens next?
We want to build his sales up, and then have accreditation that not only he's doing well in Maui, Waimea Chocolate is doing well in Maui,
okay,
but we want him to do well in the state of Hawaii. So having Neiman's Market as part of his outlet there would strengthen his Dun & Bradstreet and his financial.
Okay.
And also introduce to the rest of the island, state of Hawaii. And from there, he could build out to Singapore, Hong Kong, and what have you. But the shipping is also an issue too, because you're talking about chocolate.
Okay, so and because chocolate is a key product, it's a fragile agricultural export, like many of our other agricultural exports. What's the challenge? Let's say his target market is Singapore, so what's the problem?
Well, if the product is made in Maui, he want to make sure that this product get to Singapore in the way, the shape it should be. It's beautiful medallion, and it's all nicely packed. We don't want the product to go to Singapore, it's melted.
Okay.
So the process of making sure the shipping and the packaging and the temperature is what it should be, and how he's going to ship it is another, in terms of cost. Is he going to do it on the bottom of the bowl or the top of the bowl? Is he going to do it individually as how he sell it? So all those logistics have to talk about it in terms of how it get to Singapore.
You know, as I listened to you explain how this challenge that Waimea Chocolate faces, it reminds me that Oahu actually becomes the initial test market for, even though it's a domestic location, it's within the state, but for an outer island business, you know, if they can't ship and deliver to Oahu successfully, it's going to be kind of hard to work it all the way to Singapore or Hong Kong. Not
yes.
necessarily,
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
but the odds are pretty good.
Yes. So back to what my fundamental is. If you're a local business in, state of Hawaii, you want to make sure that you do well there first, then nationally. Then if you're ready to branch out internationally, you use all of that experience to get better, and then you strengthen your Dun & Bradstreet and your financial, so that when investors looking at your book, looking at your product, they can see all this potential in your financial and your products.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, we here at ThinkTech, we do programs every week here at Asian Review, and our rhythm for doing these shows is that one week we typically try to do a show on international foreign policy or geopolitics, maybe national security, and then the next week we address a specific problem in the international business community, like we're doing today with you, Jenny. And I think it's important for our viewers to appreciate and understand that the business development in terms of pushing out beyond Hawaii, it's a different breed of cat for the outer island business than it is for those of us who are located here on Oahu. And we're going to explore some more of the challenges, the solutions, and Jenny's got some interesting tips, which I'm going to try to extract from you here before this program is over. So stay with us. We'll be back after the break here. And again, I'm David Day. This is a ThinkTech Global Broadcast Asian Review, and our guest is Ms. Ginny Takimoto here in the office. And I'll see you on the other side of the break.
Aloha, I'm Jay Fidel. This is ThinkTech Hawaii, broadcasting live from the Pioneer Plaza in downtown Honolulu. We raise public awareness about tech, energy, and globalism in Hawaii. Technology is critical to our state. A vibrant tech sector will give us new prospects in the global marketplace and will offer great careers and make our economy more resilient. Streaming live on Ustream and Spreaker, ThinkTech allows its hosts and guests invaluable opportunities to report important events and discuss important questions, and to be heard here in Hawaii and around the world. You can find links to our live streams on thinktechhawaii.com or on our mobile website, m.thinktechhawaii.com. And you can see our archive on YouTube. It's all just a click away. We want to do whatever we can to keep Hawaii relevant, connected, and thriving in the complexity of the 21st century. We hope you will help us in those efforts. Tune in today. This is ThinkTech. I'm Jay Fidel. Mahalo.
We're back. This is a ThinkTech Global Broadcasts Asia in Review, and I'm your host, David Day. Today, taking the Outer Island Business International. Don't go away if you're a business here on Oahu, because there's something in this for you, and I think you need to understand some of the challenges that our Outer Island businesses have, and perhaps there's a place for you in a mentoring or partnership, strategic partnership position to help them. But our special guest is Ms. Ginny Takimoto. Ginny is the owner of Asia Pacific Hawaii, a Maui-based consulting firm that assists businesses in reaching out way out beyond our reef here. Ginny grew up in Hong Kong. And at the break, Ginny, we were talking about the whole challenge, the special challenge that Outer Island businesses have in shipping and packaging their products. And you were using the example of your client, Waimea Chocolate. And I wanted to ask you, before we leave this topic and move on, in terms of the logistics and the challenge, you got one run that typically has to go to Honolulu before you can go international. There are some exceptions to that, depending on freight situations with the airlines, but generally speaking, that's what has to happen. Have you run into some other kinds of shipping or packaging problems in your consulting work?
Yes, this pertains to a high-end fashion designer that based in Maui, but she also had business in Oahu. She has a beautiful line of fashion that not only does she sell it at the village, Kalapani Village shopping center, Whaler Village, but she also have it online, and now she's reaching out to Hawaii in one of the big department store.
This is statewide.
She's spreading her wings.
Okay, so
yeah.
it's sort of like the chocolate to Neiman Marcus,
yes.
right? Okay,
yes.
So she's spreading her wings.
Yeah. Right now, I can't say which department store because it's still under.
I'm not going to try to extract that from you. All right, but I got the picture.
Yeah.
Right?
So she actually participated the first ever Hawaii Fashion Month.
Okay.
And without saying too much, her challenge is the packaging as well as having the fashion roll out in time in terms of having the production and the packaging. So she didn't realize that her packaging, as far as how, because this is a high-end fashion, the fashion, you get wrinkles and a lot of things that we need to be considered, hanging versus boxing. And I find out that basically, if she's going to go outside of Hawaii, she could actually order the packaging if it's going to Hong Kong in Hong Kong and have it done in Hong Kong instead of bringing it back, because all her packaging is actually made in China or made in Hong Kong.
Okay.
So, in terms of the cost, she could reduce costs if she's going to Hong Kong. But in terms of going to outer island, in terms of having all of that shipped over air versus boat, she didn't realize that boat took longer, but air was cheaper because she can do a certain air that allow her to go faster. But the problem was this. There are problems in terms of how she can put together where it doesn't get wrinkled and how she can get in time for the show. So ultimately what she have to do is pay higher costs to go over to Honolulu, pay higher costs to have the stuff to ship over to Honolulu.
So what's the solution to this for the Outer Island business? How can you avoid that higher cost?
My recommendation to her is lined up with other merchants. Like I have another restaurant client. He lined up with other restaurant and deal with young brother. Every week they have one bar to go over to Kahului. So they in a who together.
Okay.
So they have a schedule, so it's cheaper because it's scheduled. I don't know what the contract was. However, every week they will go to Kahului and they would draw their container and split among the 4 restaurants. And that's how they smart.
So what you're talking about is the development of a joint hui, where the businesses are going to have to work together on packaging and shipping for the Outer Island to kind of coordinate. And we'll get into in another part of our show how that coordination takes place on the Outer Island. In other words, how to do it. But I think that what's fascinating about this is that the problem that a business here on Oahu faces in terms of getting their product overseas to an international market is multiplied several times once you remove the base of the business from Oahu and you relocate on one of our outer islands. It becomes much more of a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's do this. Let's talk about the problem or challenge that you alluded to at the beginning of the program. We'll move from the shipping challenges to the whole area of communications. And how about, Jenny, for our audience, just kind of restate, what is that challenge, the communication challenge that the outer island business faces?
I personally feel that it's not the technology that we're not getting the communications. It's basically the brother is not talking to the sister is not talking to the mom is not talking to the dad. In regards to uniform or unify the information that relate to small business owner, that is key success for them to branch out to their island or globally. There are events, there are things that happen in the state of Hawaii that the communication doesn't filter down. So the filtering, it gets stopped from the U.S. government all the way down to the state, but it's stopped in Honolulu at times. Or at times it does come to other islands, but the turnaround time is too short for the outer island to prepare.
Need a lot more lead time if you're going to jump on an airplane and fly to attend a conference, basically is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay. So what do I do as an outer island business owner? I'm plugged in. I've got my computer. I get I get the information. What do I do? What steps can I take to improve my ability to be connected in, or to solve this communication problem? What do I do?
Well, in my past experience, I have two key ways of solving this problem. The number one way, I call that through the government agencies, and that in 3 different levels. I'm talking about the federal government to the state to the local county. That's one solution. Reaching out to them for assistance. Okay? And the number 2 solution is to get involved with nonprofit organizations that is dialed into your field or the country that you target for, and then also with some kind of business community where the informations are usually filtered down to those nonprofits.
Okay, so let's take this slowly now. Mm-hmm. I'm located with my example on in Kihei, and you talked about getting connected with various government organizations that could assist me from the federal, state, and county level. So that means what I have to do is contact. I got to reach out and dial the phone and get connected in and talk to people and make sure they understand what my business interests are and maybe where my target market is, and if there are conferences coming up, that I get notified.
Exactly.
Immediately.
Yes, you want to get connected.
Okay. And then you talked about a nonprofit approach to getting connected. And so again, let's say I'm in Kihei, and you just mentioned the Chinese Chamber of Commerce. Mm-hmm. But the Chinese Chamber of Commerce is not in Kihei, it's in Honolulu. Mm-hmm. So how do I do this?
Well, you still can be a member of Chinese Chamber of Commerce or Hong Kong Business Association. It's just that you want to know what kind of events is happening in Honolulu, and you select your own battle. I mean, if they talk about the foreign Chinese investor coming to town, and if you're a realtor, you better get onto the plane and go there. But if they're talking about food and beverage, wholesaler coming to town looking for, some kind of making Hawaii product, and if you're making some kind of sauce, you want to make sure that you go to that. So in order for you to know all of this, it's your field, your culture, and what target country you want to go to. If it's Hong Kong, you want to be with Hong Kong. If it's Korea, you want to be with Korean. So that is something tailor-made to your own.
As I look at the way that you conduct your business, mm-hmm. and the number of times I have seen you here in Honolulu in mm-hmm. the last 6 weeks, mm-hmm. okay, what you're really saying, Jenny, is to the outer island business, you're saying, hey, follow my example, You're here in Honolulu this week, and then you're going to be here next week, right? And I don't know about following, but your travel back and forth is part of a business investment that I suspect that a number of outer island businesses don't make.
You have to make the time to focus on what your mission is.
The business conferences, we're going to get into this in a moment, but most of them are here in Honolulu. There are very few that I have seen that have come to my attention that are held on the outer islands.
I totally agree. Even with the Export University, it was held in the foreign zone in Honolulu. How many people from the outer island come?
Well, I think you were the only one, as I recall.
But you are my instructor.
Well, I think, but this is an important point that I think can't be emphasized enough. That if I'm in my business in Kihei and I want to export out of Maui, there are a number of times when I'm just going to have to bite the bullet, pay the airfare, and get on the plane and spend several hours of the day or an overnight in Honolulu to get the education or make the contacts.
Although nowadays you have webcam and all that, but the interaction with the live participation is way better.
All right, we're going to get to, and related to this communication, how you do this. Because I noticed when people from Oahu go to a conference, they collect the business cards, and I'm guilty of this. You collect the business card, and I go back to my office, and it goes in a box or someplace, and we don't really do a lot with it. And the reason we don't do a lot is that I meet somebody, Harold Johnson, and I'm going to see Mr. Johnson 2 or 3 more times, probably over the course of the next year. And if it's a significant contact, just by continually seeing the same guy repeatedly, eventually, if it's worthwhile, the contact will be made. But that's not the case for you and outer island businesses, is it?
Well, I don't know about other entity or other individual. As a business lady myself, consultant, I want to make sure that the trip that I'm coming to a conference or going to LA makes a wow. Yes, you're networking, that's your whole purpose, but are you connecting?
Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to save the how to connect, especially if you're an outer island business and you're making you're spending some money. We'll save that till after the break, because I think this is a very important point. And those of us who are here on Oahu who don't have this challenge, there's something to be learned in this how to connect, because it's very, very interesting, and it's something that I know I'm going to apply. I'm David Day. This is a ThinkTech Global Broadcast, Asian Review, and we're talking about taking the outer island business international. And our special guest is Ginny Takimoto, and we will be back after the break, so please stay with us. And I promise you, we'll pick up on this tip of how to connect after the break.
Hi, I'm Steve Petranek, editor of Hawaii Business Magazine, and I'm going to be part of Newsmorphosis 3, a look at online news in Hawaii. And along with me there will be Patty Epler of Civil Beat and HuffPost Hawaii, Malia Zimmerman of Hawaii Reporter, Jared Kuroiwa of KHON, and moderating us all is Howard Dykes of Hawaii News Now. If you want to know how Hawaii it gets its news now and will be getting it in the future, you need to be at Newsmorphosis 3. That's at 11:30 on October 24th at the Plaza Club. See you then.
We're back. You're watching Taking the Outer Island Business International. I'm your host, David Day. This is a ThinkTech Global Broadcast. And the program is Asian Review. And our special guest is Ms. Ginny Takimoto from Maui. Jenny, nice to have you with us. And Jenny, for those of you who have just joined the program, Jenny is an owner of Asia Pacific Hawaii, a international consulting firm based on Maui, and its focus is to assist the outer island business in going into new markets, to exporting, to developing internationally. And we've talked a little earlier in the program about some of the challenges that inter-island businesses face. outer island businesses face. And so one of the things that we're focusing on right now is communications. And right at the break, we were talking about this example when I go to a conference or a meeting here in Honolulu, because I get to go to so many, it's not a big deal, and I'm probably going to see this Mr. Harold Johnson repeatedly. I just collect the business cards and it goes back to my office. But because you're from the outer islands, and each time that you come to a meeting or you come to a conference, there's a heavy price tag attached to it, right?
And then time and effort too,
Time and
getting up
effort.
at 4 o'clock and catch a first flight and get back, and it's tiring. Yeah.
So what's the technique that you use when you go, Jenny, to a conference to really connect with somebody? And I think all of us will benefit from this. So explain, what is it that you do to make these conferences that you come to, or these meetings, really helpful for your business?
So should I talk like a chef to tell you the recipe and I have to kill you after? I'm just joking.
Yeah,
Anyway.
don't let's skip the killing
Okay.
part. But
Okay, in terms of networking, when you go to a conference, the first thing I do is to see what's the mix, and then who do I want to be connect. And then once I do the greeting to say who I am, we exchange business card. Now at that moment, I want to hear the key things this person do and what the area that we could connect and potential business client. So what I do is I got the key thing, for example, the kids or the football team, or something that you can have common.
cute shoes.
Oh, cute shoes, yeah, or something that in common. So like 49er or what have you. And that would be how I break the ice first. Then so I would remember that person is a 49er fan or Warrior fan. Then the second part is when I give the business card, of course I give her the eye contact. When I take it back, I quietly write down this person's comment while it's still fresh in my head.
But you're not doing it right in front of them.
No.
Okay.
Could be in the ladies' room or when I get back home.
Okay.
But I do put it in a certain way where if I need to call this person, which I always do, I would talk about the something that we talk about in a conversation, the warrior or the shoes. And they'll say, by the way, I met you September 18 at this meeting at the foreign zone, so that he could refresh or she could refresh. And I write down the key things about this person and what field that interest is. I do a follow-up call. I don't just collect it and put it in my desk.
I think that this is, of course, valuable information for all of us, whether we are a business here on Oahu or in a business on one of the outer islands. But it's particularly critical for the outer island business because as I understand what you're saying, you cannot afford to have the contacts that you are so precious, that you spent so much time and money to get. You cannot afford to let them slide through your fingers like water, right? And so that the way that you to make it work, the way that you hold them is to get some background information. Now, we've all been taught this. It's just that I never met anybody who actually does this. I mean, what you're saying, most people have heard this before, but to see, I mean, I've seen your notes here. Somebody says you had this person, you had a drink with them at Aloha Tower, you met him at such and such meeting, and you called him afterwards in connection with something else.
That is
right?
correct.
So you've got on this business card.
Not only that, I make Xerox copy of it. So whatever project I'm dealing with that pertains to that, it's going to be in my project folder. So I have different folder for different project.
Interesting. This is a very different kind of a challenge that the outer island business owner faces, and one of them that we haven't talked about so far. Later in the program, I want to get to the whole notion of how does a company, a small business on outer island with maybe very limited resources, how do they get connected? But before we do that, the desire to connect, the desire to reach out and move into another market is heavily dependent upon a comfort level that it's okay, I'm going to be successful, I can do this, I can take my chocolates or my fashion to Singapore or Hong Kong or whatever. And so, Jenny, what is it in terms of the educational preparation or the background? How do I, as a business owner in Kihei, how do I get the right kind of education to have the confidence to start, and then maybe I start spending the money to attend some conference and so forth? Where does that educational base come from?
Well, in my past experience, you go to your local county first. In my case, since I'm from Maui, I would stop by this office called Maui County Business Resource Center.
Maui County Resource Business Center, okay?
It's Maui County Business Resource Center.
Business Resource Center,
Yes.
okay?
It's a one-stop and you get it all. You can get your federal ID, your state licenses. If you're a contractor, you can get the information, as well as, information about score counseling, business writing. So all of those are tools that you will need to branch out to Kihei.
Okay, so that concept, is that an online office or a physical office or both?
You could do both. You could
Okay.
walk into Maui Mall, which is a physical building. Karen Arakawa is in charge of that. And from there, you could actually physically grab your forms and do it right there, register right there. Or at comfort of your own home, you go to Hawaii.gov and then drop down to the county that you're in,
Okay.
or the Kauai, what have you, and you look into it and how you can get about getting the local part.
Now, for the benefit of our audience, we are talking about Maui,
Yes.
and we're using Maui County names, but the same would be true. Same would be true with pretty much other island locations within the state. There may be some exceptions. Obviously, on Kauai, you're not going to go to the Maui County, but there's an
I have to
equivalent.
correct you. This book is not only limited to businesses or citizens
Business.
that doing business in Maui. This is for the whole state of Hawaii because it has all the information you need to start a business in Hawaii. Going global, so you get the federal government information, you got the state information, and of course everything that you need to get yourself going, from score counseling to business plan to shipping. It's all in this book. It's called.
So change my example.
Yes.
Business owner.
Yes.
Located in Lanai City.
Yes.
This works.
Yes, you can do it physically or you can go online.
Change example.
Yes.
Business owner. Working in Hilo.
Yes.
Businesses in Hilo.
Yes.
Same book.
Same book. The only difference is this, okay? Same book is the same state, federal, and all the information you need. It has a lot of Maui information because this is for County of Maui. But you need this book for you to roll out, even
Okay.
though you live in Hilo or Kona.
Okay, so is this setup book, is it available?
Yes, online as well as physically at the Maui Mall, at the Maui County Business Resource Center.
Okay, and so where do I go to get this online?
There's a website here.
Okay. Which one are we looking at here?
I highlighted.
Okay, mauicounty.gov will get you this book.
Yes.
Okay.
You could actually go online and it is in the soft copy.
Okay.
Or you can walk in.
Terrific. So this has to do with connecting me as a business owner with all of the resources that are available to an outer island business.
Yes. Also, if you're in Oahu, because they talk about the U.S. Commerce, talk about the Department
Okay.
of Ag.
So once I get business underway, I've gone through these. In some respects, this would be all of the Hawaii domestic business setup. And but I want to learn, and so I'm selling my product or my service, here within the state of Hawaii, and I want to expand beyond the state. I want to go international. My business, again, example, still located in Kihei. What do I do about learning about exporting? Whether it's a good or a service, what's the step I take?
Well, I use this because I'm a typical accountant. I say government, state, and county. So if you're going to go global, of course you want to look up for government agency that would help you global. We have this entity called ThinkTech, or you can also call Hawaii Pacific Export Council. John Homer will be the person. And if you want to learn about how to export, they have the Export University that is very excellent. I graduated at Export University. I learned how to write international business plan. I learned how to do shipping. I learned how to dial into the small business loan,
Okay.
and that's all from Export U.
Now, is that educational program, is it available on Outer Islands?
My understanding is they're going to try to do Skyping, but this May of this year, I actually flew in. It's a 2 weeks program. It's every other day. So I flew in and out, and I attended the 101 and 201. And today they have a 301.
So you actually attended the program here on Oahu and spent a little bit of extra money in airfare.
Yes, but it's well worth it. It's well worth it in terms of the connection, in terms of the education, the tools that I need now to help my clients, to help myself, to better understand how to do my business internationally.
You know, this Export University, we have had Leslie Harvey on. I know that we had Richard Swanson from the U.S. Commercial Service. We've had John Holman from U.S. Commercial Service talking about this particular very, very low-cost educational program, which has received enormous kudos in Washington as kind of the Rolls-Royce example in the whole country. We have that here in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is that there are times when it is available on Outer Islands, but not, not commonly. It's not all the time. And I think the fact that this particular educational program is not available every quarter, let's say, on Outer Island, again, the burden and responsibility falls back on me, the business owner. I'm going to have to follow the Ginny Takimoto example. I'm going to have to sign up and get on an airplane to get this understanding.
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
We want to move on. Jenny, we talked about the challenge of these small businesses with very limited resources. And I want to focus on that as we come down the home stretch of the program here. You talked about hooking up with the government resources. And you mentioned earlier in the program the need for finding kind of a nonprofit niche for
Yes.
you, for your culture, and for your target market.
Yes.
A lot of these nonprofits, or most of the nonprofits, are not located on Outer Islands, are they?
Nope.
So how do you make that work?
Well, there are membership that you can join. For example, Hong Kong Business Associations of Hawaii is based in Honolulu. So when they have email blasts to say a certain conference or people coming to town, you have to look at that particular conference or events. Is it relevant to your business? Do you want to spend the expense to come
Okay.
over here? So that's one. And then another part is the business type of events. If you're a realtor, if they have a annual meeting regarding real estate market, you do want to come to Oahu to attend. And then if you're a culture, if there's something that you're passionate about, you do want to come because that's how you connect to that country. So that's how I pick and choose which conference to come.
I've noticed the business conferences on Oahu that I'm at, where there's some kind of educational training, that typically the Outer Island participation is extremely limited. And if you see somebody there who's from one of the Outer Islands, if you're a business person on Oahu, that's the person that you want to meet, because there's some commitment there that they paid a higher price than anybody else at that whole conference just to be there. And I want to go back to your current client base or client base in the past. Have you been able to motivate your clients to come off of their island base and get here to Oahu, to get on an airplane for the kind of education they need, or is that still a challenge that you're working through?
There's still a challenge because they do want to safeguard their operation in their island, but yet they have to have staffing or themselves to take away from the operation to come for a conference that they don't even know they're going to be benefit or not. So that's why when you have consultant like myself, that I do all of that research and bring it back to the island and bring it back to their business to basically educate them. But you do need the tools. You do need to have the connection in order for you to go out.
We're at a time for a break here. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching a ThinkTech Global broadcast. This is Asia in Review, and I'm your host, David Day. We'll be back after the break. Stay with us.
I'm Jay Fidel, founder of ThinkTech Hawaii. We are a digital media nonprofit that covers things that matter to tech, energy, diversification, globalism, and progress for our state, the state of Hawaii. We broadcast on community television and on ocean.
Aloha, my name is Dan Bauer and I'm the general manager of the Plaza Club. The Plaza Club is Honolulu's premier business club. We're located in the heart of the financial district on historic Fort Street Mall. On the 20th and 21st floors atop the Pioneer Plaza, our commanding skyline views, along with our award-winning cuisine and service, are known as the place to do business downtown. We offer professional as well as social events and programs to our members and their guests, all tailored to enrich their professional and personal lives and to give them the cutting edge that they deserve in business. Why don't you consider becoming a member of the club? Call me at 531-7788 or come see me and let's talk business and how the Plaza Club can work for you. Again, my name is Dan Bauer. I'm the general manager of the club, and I'm here for you.
We're back. This is the ThinkTech Global broadcast, Asian Review, and our topic today, taking the Outer Island Business International. I'm your host, David Day, and our guest is the lovely and special Ms. Ginny Takimoto. And Ginny owns her own consulting business based on Maui called Asia Pacific Hawaii. I've said it so many times, I don't have it memorized. But at the break, Ginny, we were talking about the importance that you were underscoring of a outer island business in making sure that they are connected with the federal government, the state, and the county, so that they've got the information flow, the benefits, the programs, whatever's available there to assist them to go international. And you showed this fabulous How to Do It pamphlet available from the County of Maui. And for our viewers that just joined us, this particular book is relevant whether or not you are located
In
on
Hilo
Maui,
or on Maui, yeah.
Big Island, wherever.
Yeah.
And so it looks like this. Building a better community, starting a business in Maui County, but it's not just the domestic Maui-only business. This is getting you started with all the resources that are available. And we talked about Export University, part of the educational platform. And right at the break, we were talking about the critical importance of finding the right nonprofit niche. And because you grew up in Hong Kong and have an interest there, you have joined two significant organizations, the Chinese Chamber of Commerce and the Hong Kong
Business Association of Hawaii.
Okay. Both of those organizations are here on Oahu. And you are flying over for meetings and conferences, hopefully to bring that information back to your clients. But there are a whole host of other organizations. And have you been able to hook up your clients with nonprofits?
Yes. For example, Maui Business Brainstormers is a non-profit organization. This group of people, they actually live and do business in Maui. And it has a diverse part from IT to filming to anything. Now, if you're in the industry of filming, you want to hear what the commissioners say about filming. But this group is a very diverse group. And then you also have like the Hong Kong Business Association, where it got me into the Hong Kong trade, and then the Hong Kong Forum, which is my target market. And the Chinese Chamber of Commerce, which is the mainland China connection with sister city, and Beijing and Shanghai. And that's how I dial in with those places. So it could be culture, your trade or business, or it could be the national, the Korean, the Japanese, and then the Chinese Chamber of Commerce.
You know, Jenny, the time for these programs flies by. And before we run out of time, I want you to give in a kind of a bullet point fashion, what are some of the recommendations that you would have? You're talking to businesses on Oahu and outer island businesses. I want you to give some recommendations of what you think they ought to be doing. This is the outer island business. And then what about the Oahu business? How can they help or benefit from this whole process? So maybe let's take the Oahu business first.
Okay. Well, I go back to my two key thing is that you have the government agency on your back to lend you extra hands. So if you do have desire to go outside, you reach out to the government, the state, and the county. And the state have a good program. It's called Department of Business Economic Development. They also call it DBED. They have wealth of information. And if you need to do research, there's something called a data book to give you the numbers of export and in your area. So that is a good source. And then in regards to nonprofit, back to about that, you want to dial into what field you're in, what culture or target market. So you go to the Chamber of Commerce. And so that way you could get the current news and issue for that country. And you get also when there's people coming in, for investor coming in, you part of that email listing, you part of the announcement. So you can put yourself into that particular.
Okay, 20 seconds.
Yes.
What's your recommendation for the outer island business? What do they got to do that you haven't covered already?
They have to reach out. They have to be known that they want to do business. And also, too, they have to have the right tools. How do you get the right tools? It's education and training and attend events that relevant to your business.
And I think if you're on an outer island, you need to get a hold of Jenny because she knows how to do this and she can help you. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a ThinkTech Global Broadcast Asian Review. I'm your host, David Day. I hope you've learned a lot from this show. And Jenny, thank you so much for spending time with us. And ladies and gentlemen, have a safe drive home. We will see you next week.
Thank you.